Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of people talk about theology and where the origin of our existence came from, or where it's going, more importantly. Basically, all I've been able to surmise is that there's two opposing alien entities that are attempting to influence our decisions. Now, one is what we would refer to as good, and the other is what we refer to as not so good. Now, in just about every unconscious-minded individual, they always have the sense of right from wrong. I mean, you always hear it over and over again. You know, so-and-so murders a bunch of people and their mom goes on TV and says, oh, they're really good people. They obviously aren't guilty of this crime. The fact of the matter is, the whole not so good from this opposing alien entity is generally what our conscious mind feeds into. And it usually happens during rather trying times in people's lives, and if they're infected with chemicals in the food and water, environmental exposure to toxins, and otherwise undesirable circumstances. Possibly they're exposed to a lot of weaponized media propaganda and things of that nature. So a lot of factors can play into the conscious-minded decision of following the path away from good, or what's righteous. Now, there does seem to be a very fundamental us versus them, good versus evil, in just about all facets of not only entertainment, but of just things you see in general. There's never really more than two sides to any issue. At least that's what weaponized propaganda tries to lead you to believe. But it also seems to be what a lot of theology would also lead you to believe. So one would likely say, think of computers or keyboards or synthesizers or the insanely expensive camera. They call them digital, and digital is basically a very long series of ones and zeros known as binary numbers. They're either on or off. So you could say many things in our existence is binary. That used to be an old saying. I think it was a Native American saying, but they said, you have the bad wolf and you have the good wolf. Whichever one you want to thrive is the one you feed. So naturally, I mean, it would only make sense to feed the good one, but that doesn't always happen. A lot of people feel slighted in life. But one thing that at least I've found understanding of is that our existence is not meant to be easy. It's not meant to be pain-free. It's not meant to be a series of one pleasure to the other. It's just not meant to always feel 100% happiness. It's just a matter of finding the correct balance, of putting effort into endeavors that you choose to follow. Most importantly, working for good people and by good people and with good people. Working for yourself as well. A lot of discontent and malcontentment in life usually stems from being in bad circumstances, whether you're voluntary servitude or some slave laborist. And there may be some ulterior circumstances that got you into that situation. Possibly there was a series of bad decisions as far as health goes. Maybe you made some life choices that weren't the best and had long-term lasting ramifications. But the fact of the matter is, I mean, this existence is really only temporal in our current being. So it's never really too late to right the ship. I mean, regardless of where you are, where you're at, where you're going, it just makes a lot of sense to follow a high moral aptitude, because if you think of the conscious versus the unconscious controls all of our systems of life. Breathing, heart rate, lung oxygen, blood flow, hormone receptacles, and endocrine systems. The unconscious system controls all of that. The conscious system is just simply free will. The conscious system cannot function without the unconscious system. The unconscious system can function without the conscious system, which would lead one to think that good can function without bad, but bad needs good. Sort of like parasites and hosts. You need a host to have a parasite, is basically the gist of the story there, ladies and gentlemen. So even though following the path of good and what's right in your heart and everything, in your soul and your mind, it may appear daunting and difficult at first, but not only the short-term payoffs aren't always evident, but long-term payoffs are just about 100% guaranteed to be evident. And even if they aren't, this is just evaluating it from strictly a selfish point of view. If you don't evaluate it from a selfish point of view, you have to think of the greater good that it's causing when you're following a high moral aptitude. I mean, when you do good, it's good for your society, your communities, your friends, your family, and your neighborhood, and many other entities too, pretty much anything that wants to exist with you symbiotically. So just following the path of bad and of what's wrong, even if it has some weird temporal, ephemeral pleasure, it's not really worth it long term. Oh yeah, the temptations are always great and they're always high for every individual. But the fact of the matter is, if you're a very healthy person and you can think of things with a very clear conscience, you will definitely see the path that's laid out before you, ladies and gentlemen. And your path is unique as well. I mean, my path is different than your path. I mean, you certainly don't need to follow anybody else's path, because each person on this earth has a very, very unique and distinct existence as far as their circumstances, their physiological structure, what environmental exposures they've had, whether they've been exposed to chemicals in the food and water, the people they've come into contact with, their living circumstances, what type of animals they've been around. All those factors are 100% unique to each individual. So you can really only follow your own path. I mean, if you intrude on anybody else's path, generally there's going to be some troubles. Now, getting back to our typical study on health. See, we can talk about the motivation, dedication, ambition, and life coaching and all that goofy stuff. It doesn't mean anything without good health. And that includes mental health, physical health, and spiritual health. And if I had to read one more story about people succumbing to mental health, I mean, it's a challenge. Everybody knows life is a way. Everybody that listens to Tex Messages Resurrection more than 5 minutes knows that life is a war, and every day is a battle. And whining and crying, it can help on occasion, but by and large, it's not something that I would condone here. In fact, it is a little selfish, in my opinion. I mean, if things are going rough, if they're rough and tough and tumble and whatever the case may be, you know, if you start doing good for other people and start thinking about other people and how you can volunteer your time to entertain or to just make other people feel great again, it'll come back to you and you'll be great again. See, a lot of the time I think people get stuck in this competitive mindset that they always want to compare themselves to other people, whether it's some type of accomplishments, maybe you have more vacations than somebody else, or you make more money than somebody else. And by the way, when we say Text Messages has an enormous budget, it's mostly just because we're not going to grovel for donations or nothing like that. Text Messages is strictly a voluntary endeavor that I do to entertain you, the ladies and gentlemen at home. And hopefully you're informed as well. So, I mean, it's mostly, we say that in jocular fashion. You know, we're not driving Lamborghinis behind the scenes. We're just, I mean, 95 Honda Civic seems to work just fine for the Text Messages Resurrection, the budget. So, when these people get caught in this competitive mindset, anytime they go in public, their initial instinct is to compare themselves to other people, whether it's hairstyle or your height or how big your arms are, or if you got blue eyes or brown eyes or whatever the case may be. Fact is, I mean, there are a few people that I come across in a public setting, and maybe the first time I meet them, I'll judge them by some physical characteristics. But over time, when you start communicating with them and talking to them, you see them in a completely different life. I mean, you completely forget about any perception you had of them. Like, for example, if somebody asks me, you know, if I interact with somebody regularly at a grocery store, they work there, they're an employee there, they work at some pet store with all the cats and dogs, and I see them regularly there. Now, if I'm talking to them on a regular basis, and I'm asked what their physical characteristics are, or some perceived prejudice that you could base upon them, I actually don't really know. just because you know them as an individual that you can communicate with more than just some worthless physical sentient being. So yeah, it takes effort to talk to people, and sometimes you'll look like an idiot. In my case, yeah, probably more than 50% of the time if I try to engage discussions with people, I'll basically make a clown of myself. But that's the risk that you take. I mean, if you don't take those risks, you're never gonna make other people feel good about themselves or anything like that. And then ultimately you'll never really feel good about yourself either, if you're just always being selfish and just clamming up and never wanting to communicate with anybody at any level other than, hi, bye, how are you, good, fine, see you later. So, getting back to our health topic, ladies and gentlemen, I don't mean to get too caught up in these tangents, but it is important that we get this text message out, ladies and gentlemen. So naturalnews.com, what we found is that dreamless sleep contributes to illness. Now there's this other guy here showing me this. He had this thing on his wrist called the Fitbit, and it hooks up to his phone through Bluetooth or whatever, and it shows him how healthy his sleep is. It has like these little square waves, pulse waves that say deep sleep, REM sleep, waking up, or whatever the case may be, and it's a pretty cool device, so it got me thinking about how great sleep is and everything. And it'll tell you how many hours you typically sleep. So this would be an outstanding tool that you could, say if you're picking up and setting down weights, you could use that tool to maybe not definitively, but to sort of help you out and say, all right, well, for these couple of weeks I'm only sleeping 7 hours and I'm not able to pick up more weights, but these couple of weeks I slept 8 hours and I'm able to pick up and set down weights more gently, pick up heavier weights and set them down more gently. So that would be a great tool to have. Now, yeah, you can say, the radiation probably isn't good for your RF frequency, whatever. And there might be a case for that as well. But some of the things that contribute to losing sleep: medication, substance use, and of course behavioral and lifestyle factors. Now, a lot of these researchers, they would look mostly into REM sleep, which is rapid eye movement, which causes mixed frequency brain waves, irregular breathing, irregular heart rate, and strange muscle jerks. So usually when people are in the REM sleep, their brain is completely dedicated towards just thinking and solving problems. It's not worried about moving your arms, your legs, your fingers, your hands, your feet, or nothing like that. It's just worried about how we're going to solve and tackle the challenges of tomorrow based on the feedback that I've gotten from days past. Now, a lot of mental health issues can creep up as a result of lack of sleep, such as depression and anxiety and things that a lot of people claim to have nowadays. And what we actually found out is that a lot of things that actually contribute to lack of sleep are alcohol, benzodiazepines, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, tricyclic monoamic oxidase inhibitor. So some of these are antidepressants. Alcohol is basically a self-described antidepressant. So your conscious mind is saying, all right, well, if you drink alcohol and get rowdy and inebriated, then it's going to antidepress you. Your unconscious mind is saying otherwise due to lack of sleep and all that. So it is a bit of a catch-22 there. And what a lot of these things can cause are sleep apnea, insomnia, insufficient sleep syndrome, and ultimately it's just a bad deal all around, really. Dreaming after a complicating task increases success by 10%. The brain absorbs it better. See, it seems like the best way to approach issues is to just try to be a very healthy person, put in the right amount of time and thought, and then trust your brain to solve the problem. Now, if you think and overanalyze things way too much and you lose sleep over it and you can't figure out how to allocate time towards specific goals you want in life or how to balance out your life and be a healthy person, say all your goals involve computer work, but you realize that sitting in front of the computer all day is not healthy, so you have to find that balance, ladies and gentlemen. You just had to be a healthy person, put in the right amount of time, and trust your brain. As long as you're feeding yourself the right types of food, feeding the good wolf, and getting good sleep, chances are pretty good things are gonna look up. And dreaming also helps to eradicate fears. So, I mean, making your whole dreams come true and all that thing, dreams are mostly just as a way for your brain to think independently of any other distractions in life. You know, whether you say it's in touch with the fourth dimension, whatever the case may be. I mean, maybe it is, but as far as we know, on Tex Messages, the Resurrection, we're not entirely sure on that one there. So night walking is another activity that definitely, I mean, yeah, you're still moving your arms and legs and putting forth effort into it, but by and large, it is similar to a dreamlike state, and it's vastly different than walking around in daytime, which is very odd because, for example, if I go on a 2-hour walk during the daytime, by the end of it, I'm pretty fatigued and tired. But if I go on a 2-hour walk at nighttime, by the end of it, still have lots of energy, plenty of energy. Brain is working on 8 cylinders and just thinking about things of the past, present, and hopefully the future. And yeah, it's just a really great thing. It helps. So yeah, it doesn't, I mean, it's not, it seems like a misallocation of time, ladies and gentlemen, but by and large, night walking is probably the single most healthiest thing that I do personally. I mean, yeah, maybe you could say the ketogenic diet is healthy, and having an organic mattress is great and everything, and indoor plants works great. Drinking healthy water with magnesium, calcium, iron, and phosphorus is wonderful too, but night walking is probably the best thing. I mean, they all work together. They might all be, if there's 4 things that make you great again, they might all contribute right around 25%, but maybe night walking is a little bit over 25%. So, and of course sleeping is always a great thing too. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Tex Messages, the Resurrection. Friday evening, January 11, 2019. We'll be broadcasting again tomorrow. Hopefully we'll be tackling some more tough topics. And fortunately, Saturday and Sunday we don't really have any sponsorship obligations, so we might start filming multiple shows. But usually that just provides some time for the producers to go off and do their own projects, like maybe swapping out a furnace or hanging some pictures, or there is some commercial we need to film pretty soon. I mean, it's not really a commercial in the traditional sense. It's basically just gonna mimic a commercial. It's just something that we thought would be important for your health, mostly. And if it wasn't for your health, we wouldn't do it, because we absolutely respect your time. See, we're not going to take your money. We're trying not to take your time, and we're trying to provide health. So it's really a net gain. Just a 360 win, ladies and gentlemen. And that being said, we'll hopefully you'll be back to join us again tomorrow night. We're honored to have you here, and thank you very much.